Hare Krishna. Namaste. Chapter 6, entitled as Dhyana Yoga. Sloka 1. śrī-bhagavān uvāca anāśritaḥ karma-phalaṁ kāryaṁ karma karoti sannyāsī ca yogī ca niragnir cākriyaḥ. This chapter is entitled as Dhyana Yoga and also as Ashtanga Yoga, Yoga Abhyasa Vidhi, and so forth. Here, in this chapter, Krishna will elaborate the details of what he mentioned in the 5th chapter, 27th and 28th slokas. In those slokas, Krishna just touched the surface, saying one should try to shut down all the external sense object from the form, taste, smell, sound and touch, etc. and try to bring the concentration towards the two eyebrows, in between the two eyebrows, and trying to control the breathe in and breathe out through the nostrils, and control the mind, sense and intelligence, and aiming only in liberation to attain the vision of the self, one be free from desire, fear and anger. But then here in this chapter, Krishna goes deeper into this subject matter. Before we get into the sloka details, let's recap what we have covered so far. In chapter 1, Arjuna Vishada Yoga, we learned that love and compassion are must for human, which is also found in other species of life. But these feelings should not arise at the wrong time or on inappropriate occasion. In the case of Arjuna, he developed affection and compassion to wrong person, to his enemies, at the wrong place, that is in the battlefield. So he was confused. He thought what is dharma to be adharma and what is adharma to be dharma. That is, fighting in the war against his relatives, friends, teacher, etc. is adharma. And giving up his responsibilities and duty of a kshatriya, a warrior, and going to the forest, renouncing everything, is dharma. So he was quite confused. And that continued into the 2nd chapter, few slokas. And then he surrendered to Krishna, accepting his inability to make decisions. So the 2nd chapter, titled as Sankhya Yoga, here Krishna speaks about Atma Jnana, because he understood Arjuna is lacking some understanding of Atma and body. The compassion needs not be given to the dress of a drowning person, rather the person has to be saved. And Arjuna was missing this point. Therefore, Krishna explained Arjuna about Atma in full detail. And therefore, one can come to a realization of this and can practice and perform their karma yoga. By performing karma yoga, it makes one to become eligible to get into the next level of the rung in a ladder, where one can establish fully in self, to get the vision of self. So here the sequence has been given that one should understand that they are Atma, they are not this body, and they have to perform karma yoga. By perfectly performing karma yoga, one will be qualified to enter into the next stage of the yoga system called Jnana Yoga. And by performing Jnana Yoga, one will be self-realized and have the vision of the self. And that ends the second chapter. And in the third chapter, which is called Karma Yoga, here, starting this chapter until the end of sixth chapter that we are going to cover today, the vision of individual self has been the primary focus. In this chapter, Krishna conveys in this meaning Karma Yoga, chapter 3, Krishna conveys that one can just do Karma Yoga without need to get into Jnana Yoga. They can directly attain the same result of what a Jnana Yogi will attain. Because in the chapter 2 it was sequential. One has to perform Karma Yoga and then get into Jnana Yoga. And in this chapter Krishna clarifies that one might as well stay in Karma Yoga practices and attain the same result. That is chapter 3. And in chapter 4, entitled as Jnana Yoga, in chapter 3, Krishna clearly instructed that all person will not be qualified to perform Jnana Yoga, at least at the beginning, very beginning. And even if one is eligible to practice Jnana Yoga, Krishna says that Karma Yoga is far superior when practiced with the conviction that I am not the doer, the action is not under my control, and I am not concerned with the results of the action. And one must practice Karma Yoga, especially one who is well known in the society, because people look upon the people in a higher post, in a position. And if that person can set a role model, an example, then all other common people can easily follow this path. Otherwise, if the leader doesn't set a nice example, then the followers will also be misled. And the sin of misleading the followers will be upon the leader. So in the chapter 4, Krishna said this knowledge of Karma Yoga is important, and this is not something new. This has been already taught to the sun god and so forth. And over the period of the time, it got lost. And this is a special chapter where Krishna speaks about his avatara ragasya, the secret of his incarnation. Though this chapter is not meant to speak about introducing about himself, but he did this. And why he did this, we discussed these things when we studied the chapter 4. And next, chapter 5, Karma Sannyasa Yoga. We saw chapter 4 dealt with nature of Karma Yoga. That includes the knowledge. Also there, we saw the varieties of karma that one can perform. But the fundamental principle is to have the proper jnana, the jnana that we discussed earlier. In the 5th chapter, Krishna explained how karma yoga leads to direct vision of the self quickly compared to jnana yoga. We also learned that karma sannyasa yoga does not mean one must give up their duties, their karma. Rather, what it means is to give up the mentality of doership. I am the doer, I am the karta. So that has to be given up. That's the main focus on the 5th chapter, karma sannyasa yoga. Karma yoga is easier, comfortable to practice, and it also gives result sooner. So that is chapter 5. Then the chapter that we have to study is Dhyana Yoga, chapter 6. This chapter has 47 slokas. These are all what we have seen so far are different yogas, that is karma yoga, jnana yoga, dhyana yoga, and the one that we are going to see from next chapter onwards is bhakti yoga.
Namaste, Hare Krishna.